Welcome back to Melody Guitar Book 2. This book focuses on learning how to read and play melodies in standard music notation. You can watch all these videos for free, but it's going to be a lot easier to learn if you have your own copy of Melody Guitar 2 that you can read from and write in, and you can support an independent music teacher. So I'll leave a link in the description. We're on pages 58 and 59. In the last lesson, you learned about D-C markings. In this lesson, you're going to learn about D-S markings. At the bottom of page 58, we have number 113, Bendemeer's Stream. It's in 3/4 time, has a couple pickup notes, and it's marked moderato, so no specific tempo marking, but when we do the playthrough, I'm going to do it quarter equals 105, kind of a moderate tempo. This one has a new type of marking. This is the DS marking. In the last lesson, you learned about DC markings that take you back to the beginning. DS markings work kind of the same way, except you're going to jump to somewhere in the middle of the music. So DS means from the sign. Whenever you reach a DS marking in your music, you jump back and find this funny looking S sign. For example, in Bendemeer's Stream, we can play all the way to the bottom where it says DS al fine. And that means we're going to look for that funny looking sign. Musicians just call it the sign. And you can see there is the sign at the beginning of the second line. And because it's DS al fine, as you learned from last lesson, al fine means to the fine bar, or the end. There is a fine bar at the end of that second line. So we play all the way through this one till we reach the DS. Then we jump back to the sign. Then we keep playing until the end of that fine bar at the end of line 2. Let's look at the music in this one now. We do have a couple pickup notes, so that'll be counted 1, 2, 3, and 1. And then we jump to the E string, or the first string. Watch out for those string jumps. We have quite a few jumps where we have to jump over the second string. The notes in this one aren't too bad. We have a whole lot of dotted rhythms in this one. I'm not going to go through every single one because there's a whole lot of them, but let me play the first line and we'll kind of point them out as we go. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, measure 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1. So 1, 2, and 3, 1. And then measure 5, 1, 2, and 3. And measure 7, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2. And then we keep on playing. We have a lot of those same rhythms. Let me point out though, in the third line, measure 3, we have another dotted quarter eighth note, except this dotted quarter note falls on beat 2. So the rhythm for measure number 3 is 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So let me back it up to the beginning of that line. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. And then from this point out, we're doing the dotted quarter eighth note rhythm starting on beat 1 like I showed you already. Watch out for the skips kind of in the middle of that third line. That's measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have some eighth notes, C and E, going to a G, so just be ready for those. But aside from that, and some of those string skipping, especially at the beginning of the line, you're mostly moving by step. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. At the top of page 59, we have number 114. I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation, but this is also the Israeli national anthem. It's in 4/4 time and it's marked moderato. When I do the playthrough, I'm going to play on the slow side of moderato at quarter equals 90. And this one has quite a bit of a roadmap. So at the end of the first line, we have a repeat sign. There is no forward repeat, so that takes you back to the beginning of that line, and then you continue playing. We get to the second line. Notice there's a sign at the beginning of that second line, so we're going to be jumping back to that. And it's not a bad idea to circle the sign, circle codas, circle Fine markings, circle DC and DS markings so you don't get lost. We play through until we're at the end of the fourth line. Now here we have a DS al coda, and we learned about codas in the last lesson. Even though there's more music to play after this DSL coda, we jump back, in this case, to the sign. When we have the DC, we jump back to the beginning. When we have the DS, we look for the sign. We already noticed that the sign was at the beginning of the second line. And because it's a DSL coda, this time we jump to the sign, play until we reach the 2 coda marking. And from there, we jump down to the coda, which is that last line. And as I mentioned in the last lesson, these coda markings, sometimes all you'll see is that little circle with the, looks like a little target, which is the coda sign. Sometimes you'll see the words to coda, and sometimes you'll see a combination of those. Let's take a look at the music in this one now. We have some eighth notes at the beginning. It's just a little scale going up from an A. So be ready to stretch up to that high A. A lot of times I like to play that high A with my third finger, but just because of this stretch, I'm using my fourth finger, and we can take advantage of that E, that open E, to get back to position. Then we have 1, 2, and 3, alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down. Then because of that repeat sign, we go back to the beginning. Let's just pretend we did that. Move on to the second line. It's not a bad idea to play this A with your first finger so you can reach that high A more easily. Now it's pretty likely you'll forget to do that because at the end of the first line, we're playing that A with our second finger. So if you forget about that, that's okay. You just have a little bit more of a jump. But if you think of it, play the end of the first line, and then switch fingers to first finger on that A at the beginning of the second line. Anyway, so we play the A and the high A's. Notice the fingering here. We have finger 2 on the G, finger 4 on the A, back to finger 2, and I'm just keeping finger 2 down on this G even when I'm playing the A because I have to go back to it. And then stretch over to first fret for the F. And then the next 2 measures are the exact same thing. Exact same music. Third line, 1, 2, and 3, 4, alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I missed a rhythm there. In the third measure of that third line, I should have played 1, 2, 3, 4, and. I accidentally played a quarter note just then. Fourth line, pretty easy stuff here. 1, 2, and 3, 4, alternate picking. See if I get the rhythm right this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. Now we have our DS marking, so we jump back to the beginning of the second line. And if you remember, you can play your first finger on this A, and if you don't remember, just use your second finger, but stretch more for the high A. Fingering here. Same here. First finger. And fingering here, 2, 4, 2. Now, we've reached the 2 coda markings, so we jump down to the coda. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat. First finger. To the sign. To the coda. Before we close out this lesson, let's check out this roadmap recap. A DC marking, which you learned about in the last lesson, means you jump back to the very beginning. The DS marking means you jump back to the sign. The Fine marking is going to be somewhere in the middle of the music, that's where you'll stop, and a coda is always going to be at the end of your music. Your assignment is to practice numbers 113 and 114. Make sure you follow those DS, Fine, and coda markings, and if you need to, circle those markings. As always, work on keeping a steady tempo by playing along with the video, or play to a metronome so you can choose your own tempo. And don't forget to order your own copy of Melody Guitar Book 2. You can watch all these videos for free, but it's going to be a lot easier to learn if you have your own book that you can read from and write in, so I'll leave a link in the description. Take your time with this, and then when you're ready, I'll see you on page 59. We have a new rhythmic figure, the 8th note followed by dotted quarter note.